I'm not going to take anything away again from Moana, but I think the Frozen cast itself, they got the Queen of Broadway, Adele Dazeem.
You might have the Queen of Broadway, but I have the People's Champ, man. We're dropping the People's Elbow, baby. I got The Rock, dude. Rock.
You got The Rock.
In a Disney musical.
I got Josh Gad.
They got Alan Tudyk to voice a chicken.
This podcast was brought to you by The Magic Candle Company. Relive your favorite theme park memories through the magical sense of smell. Receive 15% off at checkout by using discount code DEBATE and help our channel in the process.
All right, buddy. Ready?
Welcome.
Yeah, you do it. Go for it.
No.
Go for it.
I don't even know what the words are.
I don't know. I make them up as I go. All I do is go, welcome to this week's episode of Diz or That a Disney Debate podcast. My name is Justin.
And I am Chris, and this is week number 6.
Number 6 of the happiest debate on Earth. This week, Chris, what are our 2 topics this week? What are we going to be fighting over?
We are going back to the movies, back to the cinema. 2 movies which I think we thought were fairly comparable in a couple ways, and I think 2 movies that we can discuss pretty in depth, for and against. So we're going to be doing Moana versus Frozen.
2 movies that I definitely think are comparable, but are comparable in a unique way. I don't think that they're like the 2 that you would pull out and be like this one versus this one. But in so many ways, there's a lot of similarities between these 2 films after watching both of them in the past 24 hours. Lots of similarities, lots of differences too, that I think will make this fight fairly unique. Yeah.
I think these 2 against each other does make sense. They came out fairly close together. Time-wise,
I think Moana was essentially right after Frozen. It was one of the next big hits after Frozen. So, yeah.
When Disney Animation Studios decided to step it up. But before that, before Frozen, we had Tangled, and then before that, we had Brave. I think that order is correct, or vice
probably
versa.
Generally, at least. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Brave, Tangled, and then Frozen, then we got Moana, and then
onward it's really with everything else.
Doing good. They're just creating new princesses, and they're going.
Yeah, I think it's good. After watching both of these, I think that these are both very, very strong additions to the princess lineup. I think that they felt very, very genuine to some of the more classic princess films that they've come out with. Didn't feel like they were trying too hard.
They definitely
good.
needed to do that too. I mean, if you're looking at a lot of the OG princesses, you're going to, all the way back to Cinderella. How long ago was that at this point? When that came out,
quite a while, right? Snow White and everybody else
count as a princess movie.
Yeah, I think she's in that world. I'm pretty sure she shows up anytime we're talking about princesses. I don't know the actual lineage.
She shows up, I guess. Is she at the sleepover in Wreck-It Ralph? Is that what I'm thinking of?
I mean, probably. I would imagine. There's no way that you're going to leave her out of that. It's not. But I mean, technically, it's the same thing of there's a few other princess, not princess, they're in the conversation, but they are technically a princess. And then it even applies to somebody like Princess Leia, who's an after the fact princess. Does she count or no?
She counts in a different way. I think animated princesses have more weight in the Disney world.
If they were created by Disney Animation Studios, it seems like they are without a question in the family. If they were created outside of that, in some situations, right? I'm sure at a few park. I mean, a
lot of those weren't created by Disney, right? Cinderella wasn't. A lot of those old stories. Pocahontas was a real person.
Yeah, I think almost every one of these stories has been pulled from fairy tales, kind of in the public domain, and I think that was Walt Disney's sort of genius of just taking what's already established, doing a Disney version of it, and now it's out in the world.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
It's worked really well. And I don't know the specifics on these 2 films. I know that there is some sort of fairy tale inspiration, at least with Frozen. but it definitely worked. I mean, we have our Rotten Tomato scores of Frozen at 90% on the tomato meter with an 85% audience, and then Moana has a tomato meter of 96% with an audience of 89%. So clearly, both of these like in the ballpark of that just upper echelon Disney animated movie without question. And I mean the phenomena that like both movies have been, but definitely Frozen swept the nation for how long? I mean, it's still going like that. It's crazy.
That's definitely something I want to talk about for sure.
Absolutely.
So this was decided by a coin flip.
Absolutely.
Who was going to take who here?
Who? Yes.
This was really tough for me. I couldn't pick between these two. I like both of the movies. I saw Moana. I didn't see Frozen in theaters. I saw Moana in theaters with Katie, and in theaters it was crazy. I was like, this is the best animated movie I ever saw in my life. And then I watched.
Very good.
I think I watched Frozen after I watched Moana. I don't think I watched Frozen up front when it came out. I may have, but I really don't remember. I think I put that one off for a while. I don't think it really appealed to me myself initially. And I think that was probably fair. It was 2013. I was in college at that point. I wasn't really
in the middle of college, and it's like it definitely wasn't something that was appealing to two dudes of our age range, especially with just the hype train and the hate train that is kind of following that. So like, my first viewing of Frozen was literally probably 12 hours ago. So technically my first viewing of Frozen was today. I have seen things. I know a lot about the story, but I haven't watched it until just recently.
That Moana is crazy.
I mean,
that's almost 10 years it is 10 years.
Yeah.
You've gone 10 years without watching
it. But I've heard almost every song, and I knew almost every plot point. So it felt like I watched that movie.
There are some that if you told me you hadn't seen it, like Brave, for instance, I'd be like, that makes sense. Brave's a good movie. It's a fun movie, but it wasn't Frozen.
No.
Frozen, and this huge. Is something I want. It was a phenomena. It was absolutely crazy how much hold that had on the world at that time.
Everybody. I think the big thing that probably stopped me from that was Disney Plus wasn't around then. It's really easy now when there's a big movie out, regardless of the hate train or the hype train. If it's on a Disney Plus, I might give it a shot. If you're bored on a Friday night, Saturday, a weekday night, you might flip it on. But if not, that's what happened with me when Moana came out. I believe it was on Netflix at the time. We were still pre Disney Plus, but I did watch that. Once it was sort of in that release window after the theater, but just blew me away. Still on the small screen, absolutely blew me away. And even though I knew most of the plot points of Frozen on this go around, solid film, man. Solid film. I can't argue against it.
Good movie. It's a movie that also kind of keeps you guessing the entire movie. I love what they did with it. Nothing was like super. Nothing. You couldn't guess what was going to happen next.
It wasn't very predictable. It absolutely was not predictable.
That's what I'm looking for. I think Moana is a little bit more predictable.
In a way. I
think it is.
I don't argue that.
Moana really is that like classic hero's journey.
It kind of comes back to like when we were discussing Toy Story versus Finding Nemo. Like there are some similarities there where like Toy Story had like, you kind of think you know where you're going, and then there's like a couple more things that happen. There's a couple more things. There's a little bit of a twist.
Yeah, sure.
And then like Finding Nemo was a little bit more straightforward, but like not in a bad way. Like Finding Nemo is a near perfect film, even with a little more predictable of a plot line to where I feel like that's sort of similar for Moana.
I think Moana for sure is more formulaic in that sense. It's very Little Mermaid, Hercules-esque.
It does feel that way. Absolutely. Yeah. Especially with the demigods and other things going on, right? Like the equivalent to Hercules is very applicable. The equivalent to water life Disney princess is very applicable.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and I mean, it's like Ariel with her rebelling against her dad.
Sure. Yeah. I didn't even think about that
going
part
on her
too.
Journey.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not gonna trash either of these movies because
And it's bringing up the really Rotten Tomato scores really shows you. It's like the Toy Story versus Finding Nemo. We are debating the upper echelon of Disney films. There is no loser in this scenario. Both of these films
and we're also debating
perfect.
Children's films that are made for children.
Hey, they're ultimately for everybody,
but
man.
they're
for everybody.
In a way, they are for everyone. In a way, but I'm not a ultimate big child movie critic.
You're not going to hold it too seriously.
I'm not going to hold it to Oppenheimer. It's
fair.
It's going to be a little bit different. Not that I think it's less, because I don't. Mm-hmm. I think movie quality, especially with animated films, there's so much that goes into doing that, that they're almost not even comparable.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just a totally different medium in so many ways.
They are. I mean, and if you're looking at animated films in general, just purely animated films, what are you going to put at that top? You're going to most of them are probably Disney movies.
Yeah,
Pinocchio is like a perfect movie.
I'm trying to think of one that isn't, one that would be in that category of like, Oscar-winning films that aren't not that there's not animated movies that aren't Oscar-winning level films that aren't Disney. Sure. But at the same time, there is literally, it's a Marvel property.
It's a Marvel,
so like it's still in that world.
Yeah.
But it's not like there's not many Oppenheimer level animated films. I would love to see that. I know in the anime world, there definitely is a little bit more of that serious drama sort of a thing going on. But when you're thinking about top quality animated movies, it is a little bit more of that family friendly, something that everybody can take away themes from. And that's definitely one of the big things I want to talk about today, are just the themes in both of these films, because
that's 100% it. That's 100% it.
There's so much to take away from as 30-year-old dudes from these children's princess movies. 100%.
To be fair, I probably watched it when I was maybe mid-20s, so that's a little better.
But they still apply. Watching these with an adult brain.
They definitely do, and it's even if it doesn't apply to me, I think it applies to a lot of people. I think the themes that they go for are really powerful still. Frozen, it's not the first to not have like that straight love interest that matters.
Yeah.
I think what Frozen does really good is take that classic princess movie, and this is what they did. They took a princess movie and they flipped it.
Yeah.
They took the princess kiss away, and they made it and they actually did in the movie. The whole twist was that Anna is going to get the kiss, right? And he ends up being the villain.
He's the villain.
That's
even the guy
twist.
That you think is going to come in and be the Prince Charming of this film does not get the opportunity to do so.
Not, and it kind of goes down to the theme of that. It's not, love can be more than a kiss. And I think the power that the self-sacrifice and the sister love really goes a long way.
Yeah. I literally, when I was watching that, I thought that there would still be a kiss of some sort, like a forehead kiss, like a holding the hand and kissing the hand kind of kiss, like we would see in like any sort of actual drama where, two sisters or a brother sister, somebody like that, like a non-romantic sort of a kiss. I thought there was literally still going to be a kiss, and I just thought it was so like, no, they never explicitly said in the movie that it needed to be a kiss. They just inferred that it was like a true love's kiss. That's not even remotely what that was. Yeah.
No, it was an act of love.
Yeah.
Right. And that was cool to see how they did that, because they really built up that classic Disney. You need the princess kiss to save the day. And they turn it on its head, which I think it was really cool. But Elsa being just as a princess / queen now that doesn't need any love interest, I think is really cool. Brave did it.
Yeah.
Brave didn't really have. Brave, I think, was the first. I don't know if I'm right there, but the first like female character that doesn't
Yeah, have that classic Disney romance. Yeah.
It doesn't, and that's cool. What they also did, going off track here, but the whole Elsa and Anna, you have two kind of very different sisters, and I think that worked out so well in Disney's favor too. Yes. As you automatically had people, I say people, children, small children, picking if they were an Anna or an Elsa.
I mean, I think that's still everybody. I mean, you go to the Disney parks, you see how many people Disney bound Anna and Elsa. It's a lot. It's everybody picking, if you have a sibling, you're going to fall into one of those two kids. And where do you fall?
It shows a good, complicated sibling relationship, which I think is, I mean, that's the huge theme, is their relationship of sisters. Mm-hmm. And it shows that really well. Disney actually, when they were doing this whole movie thing, they're deciding how they're going to make it work and everything. When they decided to make Anna Elsa's sister, because Anna was going to be the main character, Elsa, I believe, was going to be the villain, which makes sense.
Interesting,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, she's basically, it's like a mutant origin story.
Yeah, right. She is set up that way in the movie itself. Like she kind of is the villain in a way. Yeah,
she is to the town people.
Yeah,
at least as far as they know.
Yeah, really
up front. So it's really cool to see that switch there, and I don't think we really see a lot like that where they're set up almost to be the villain, but they end up also being the heroes. Like it's
a very interesting sort of like almost like a Frankenstein-esque relationship where it's like everybody is viewing this person as the villain, but they're really not the villain. They're misunderstood, or there's external circumstances surrounding things. They're not intentionally trying to be. There's no evil there. There's not hate in their heart. No, but they are being the main issue and the main problem within the story. So many cool things with their relationship, and like you said, making them sisters is really cool. I think taking the fact that we have the queen and we have the sister princess and putting the love interest idea, even because there still is a love interest idea in the movie, but putting it on the sister versus the queen is so cool. I think that makes a lot of sense. Very, very different there. And then ultimately it kind of doesn't, it matters, and it matters to the rest of the franchise, but it doesn't matter to that particular movie and that particular plot. Just top-notch stuff. I thought that was all great storytelling. I really, really enjoyed it.
Also got off track. I was saying, but I got off track because I do that all the time. They were doing, so when they decided they're going to be sisters, they held like a big sister summit where they took people that worked at the studio that had sisters, and they brought them in and they talked about their relationship with their sisters. So they really tried to build that relationship as authentically as possible.
Yeah.
Which you can tell. I mean, I think the complexity of the characters, the chemistry the characters have in Frozen is incredible.
It's wild for an animated movie too, like to have that level of
it's insane
chemistry between the two of them. Great job from both like actor standpoint and animator standpoint. Phenomenal. Like that felt legit. That felt real. I
think when you're looking at the themes and the kind of the tropes that they play against, I think that makes Frozen better in that regard.
In some ways, I think that there's a lot of depth in Moana as far as themes and stuff go. Not necessarily taking again, it's not taking the standard Disney princess thing or the standard Disney sort of thing and flipping it on its head. It's following it to a certain degree, but they are executing at a very high level at every one of those points. They have taken what Disney and Walt Disney has done from the beginning of them telling these sort of princess fairy tale stories and just really fine tuning it and making like I don't want to say it's a perfect film. I definitely don't think it's a perfect film. I'm sure people can poke holes in this all day, but man, it's a fun ride from beginning to end, and every single aspect of it, I think, works really, really well. As far as themes go, I think the biggest theme that we find in Moana, which it delivers on, is just finding your identity. We're not dealing with sort of the interpersonal relationships like Frozen is, but it's the self actualization of Moana
it's
and
it's
finding
a coming
herself,
of age film.
right? Yeah. And it's finding, and it's from her perspective. It's from Maui's perspective. It's from Moana's father's perspective. You also have Mother Earth herself, like finding her own identity in what she is and who she is. And it really plays across the board, which is something that I think, like, as a 30-year-old still, very, very applicable. Many 30-year-olds in the millennial generation still don't know who they is, and like that's a thing that I think that's a human nature thing, right? Like, you always are trying to figure out who you are at the end of the day, no matter how old you are. So I thought that was just such a great thing to look into, and when you really dive into each aspect of each person and what they're going throughout the film, awesome theme. Bunch of other ones too, overcoming anger and a few other different things, especially like with Mother Nature. I'm forgetting her actual name, but the sort of like that being wronged by Maui, having something stolen from you and turning into a completely different person, and eventually being able to sort of become whole again, I thought was really cool. And that resonates throughout, with the father's journey too.
Like forgiveness.
In forgiveness
and acceptance.
Just, understanding that, in a way, like, two wrongs don't make a right. That's still a very big, powerful theme in that movie. Not in such a blatant regard, but I feel like the way that they do that is just very, very top notch. I want to talk a little bit more about just sort of some of the other points in this before we dive into too many of the other themes, because I know that these things are going to keep kind of coming up and up and up as we do this whole discussion. But just starting with some stuff up top, I think the casts of both of these movies are just very, very top notch. They have pulled some very, very big names, and not necessarily the biggest of the names, but the right names, if that makes sense. I think that every person that they chose for every single role between Moana and Frozen was picture perfect for each of those roles. Not to give you too many points, but like, we got to talk about like Kristen Bell and like Josh Gad, and just like, God.
And you're gonna give this to me here, because I think the Frozen cast, and I'm not going to take anything away again from Moana, but I think the Frozen cast itself, they got the Queen of Broadway, Adele Dazeem.
Sure. I mean, and again, I'm giving you a few of these because I think mine are much, much stronger, to be honest. You might have the Queen of Broadway, but I have the People's Champ, man. We're dropping the People's Elbow, baby. I got The Rock, dude. Rock.
You got The Rock.
In a Disney musical.
I got Josh Gad.
Yeah.
You got The Rock, I got Josh Gad. I think so.
Can they be compared?
I think as far as looking at like sidekicks / secondary characters there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Maui kind of falls as a sidekick necessarily.
I think he would be upset if we called him a sidekick. Absolutely.
I think so.
And he is definitely more than that. I think the sidekick game in Moana is a little bit lacking. You have the pig and you have the chicken.
Pua and you have Hey Hey.
But let's be honest. Hey Hey, who's he voiced by? The great Alan Tudyk. They got Alan Tudyk to voice a chicken, which brings that character to life. That character shouldn't do anything on paper, but by having a voice actor, by having an actor as talented as Alan Tudyk in that role, wow. Like, it actually can do something. It's more than just
it can do as much as it can. As far as I'm concerned, it's an annoying chicken. And I don't love the chicken.
And I mean, but let's be real with the reindeer. Was it a reindeer in Frozen? There's really there's a personality there, but there's not a whole lot of personality there. There's some given from the animator, but there's really no voice. There's really no extra element to that, right? Where you both have
grunt, and there are grunts. Okay. I forget the guy. However, he does grunt. I think it's fun because in some things, like in the songs, Kristoff will do his voice. That's fun. That is fun, and he agrees unique with what he's saying. He's also a hero in a lot of ways too.
Do you think the chicken is not? The chicken saved the heart. right? He did some stuff. Moana didn't even think that the chicken was going to be able to understand or comprehend anything that she said.
She was,
and he came through a couple times
about the chicken.
Not at first, but eventually.
And then you have Pua, who
he was back on the island most of that movie.
What's going on?
It was a little bit wasted. I'll be honest.
It's crazy. Did they just make that character to sell toys of Pua?
I mean, maybe like in some way, but like you got to imagine that in Moana 2, Pua's got to have a bigger role. There's no way.
But I mean, they made this character before even character. I mean, it's an animal, it's a sidekick, but he doesn't really do much.
No, they put him on the island. He's back on the island.
He's
like
on the
entire thing.
You think that he's going to be the one taking the boat stroll,
or at least both of them. I really thought when they have that kind of reveal that Hey is on the boat, that like Pua would be there too.
Pua jumps out too, right?
Yeah,
but no.
Okay.
And it's just like, okay, so they're not even in the movie.
And I mean, I don't think it really detracts from the movie. I don't think that, like, I think outside of like a few other little jokes, a few other little things, Pua could have been a good addition. But like at the same time, I don't think it would have elevated the movie that much. I think there was a lot going on already that we had. So like, I don't necessarily need it, but like, why would you not throw it in there unless there's some weird animation budget reasons? That's all I can think.
Maybe that was the case. I don't know.
It could be.
Olaf, when you're looking at sidekick characters, Olaf takes the cake. Is probably the best.
He's
the best since Mushu.
I'm trying to think of another sidekick character that could be in that sort of Mushu category, because I would put Mushu pretty high up there. I'm trying to think of anybody else that kind of even comes close. Like, I can't think of any other Pixar or Disney Studios character that Olaf is in that realm.
Is insane with the amount of love that he gets. He gets his own song.
Yeah.
Which is it's funny. Olaf's actually funny. And I think that goes to Josh Gad.
I would agree. I think the performance that Josh Gad gave in that film is like next level. Again, I thought everybody did an incredible job in the acting roles, but like Josh Gad, there is just a like genuine nature to it that like his voice is so difficult to have in any animation at all.
His voice is also perfect for a role like that.
Yes.
It's already lighthearted and silly and kind of goofy, and to have that go onto a doofy looking snowman, it's absolutely perfect. And like I said, it's actually funny. It doesn't rely on like dumb jokes. I think there's like actually really good jokes.
There's a handful of like physical comedy-esque jokes, but they're always followed up with a like actual strong punchline line delivered by Josh Gad. So yeah, and like a lot of times when those physical moments happen, especially in like animation, if it's not followed up well, it can really drop the ball. And like this is one of the things that I think when people are talking about Jar Jar Binks and how Jar Jar Binks isn't funny, it's kind of because of that. There's like some slapstick humor, and then it's just followed up by a really dumb saying, and it doesn't really help it land at all. Where this is almost the exact 180 degrees opposite.
That is 100% correct. 100% correct.
He falls in like Olaf kind of even falls a little bit in that like, and I don't want to be too Star Warsy about it, but in that like C-3PO area where like he could very much be the kind of like annoying sidekick character, but they play it so well that anytime there are those annoying moments, it's a genuine laugh out, like loud sort of a thing. Kudos to him. I can't knock you there. As far as sort of people who can do vocal delivery like Josh Gad and have it be that genuine, and it's a tough point because he's a chicken, but Alan Tudyk, man, like I put those guys on very, very similar levels of voice actor capability.
Frozen.
Who is Alan Tudyk in Frozen?
I believe he plays the Duke of Weaselton.
Is that him?
I believe so.
Then that's nuts. And that
he definitely is in the movie. And I believe
that would further prove a point that it's not really a win because it would either be a wash or it's a point for Frozen. But like Alan Tudyk, man, if that was him, holy crap. Because that is another character that I thought was portrayed really, really well in that movie.
He is the Duke of Weaselton.
Wow. That's crazy to me. Yep. I would have not expected that. And that's the genius of Alan Tudyk, where it's like, if you didn't know that he was in Moana, you'd have no freaking idea. You would not think that he was the chicken.
But so he is off the wall. He'll have roles in every single movie, and you wouldn't even know it's him.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, from Star Wars to everything else that he's done, it's crazy. That's nuts. In a way, it takes kind of a point away from me. I do have to kind of throw that a little bit heavier over to Frozen, because that performance, I think, sort of outweighs things a little bit.
Might outweigh the chicken a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
He can do a good chicken noise.
I just think that it's impressive that it gave so much life to a chicken that literally is supposed to have nothing to do. Like, it's not supposed to have lines. It's not a Mushu or a Olaf like character where it's actually speaking. Like, it is there to potentially be slapstick comedy in the way that they interweave it into the story to mean a little bit more.
A fine point. I think I don't know if another voice actor could jump into the chicken role. And do something as good as what Alan Tudyk did there.
Like who else could have did it? Jack Black? Could Jack Black do that? I don't think so. I don't know. Like, who?
I don't know. I've never heard his chicken. He might be.
He
able
does
to.
A great panda, but I don't know. I don't know about his chicken. Probably decent, but
he could do it. I don't know. We're gonna have to go back to that when he plays his next chicken role. But yeah,
stellar voice cast, I think, in general. Talking about some more Moana people, I mean, we'll touch again on the big man Maui in a second, but you have a lot of just really talented, like, veteran actors in Moana that are very, like, understated, and if you didn't look them up, I don't think you would necessarily know, which is like a testament to choosing the right actors, having them fit very well. But we have Tamira Morrison as the father in Moana. He is famous for being in Star Wars. He's the new Boba Fett. He has been the clone in all of the prequel movies. He's been in DC films and a bunch of other things. His list goes on and on and on for days. I'm a super Star Wars nerd, so it's really cool to always see Tamira in there. But I didn't even know this. Did you know who the mom in Moana is? Do you know who this is? Who this is played by?
No.
A pussycat doll. Nicole Scherzinger, famous for Pussycat Dolls and The Masked Singer.
I may have known that, but now saying it again still is just as shocking as probably when I read it the first time.
Yeah, it's like
that is wild.
I read that and I just did not put two and two together, but then you kind of start thinking about it and it's like, yeah, of course. There is so much singing that's done in the movie, and not that the mom does a ton, has a ton to do in the film singing wise, but she does have a very prominent song in the film. And like, why would you not hire somebody with vocal talent like that who can also speak and act? And it's just native to the sort of Polynesian fantasy Polynesian island that they have in the movie. It just works. It works all day.
Does Tamara Morrison also sing his parts?
I don't think that he does. I should have looked that up beforehand. I'm pretty sure that I did try to look and see if there was any information. I don't think so, because it doesn't sound like him to me, but it could very well be some version of that and some version of like auto-tuned S singing, because we do see some of that in this. Cough, cough, Dwayne Johnson. Wow. It's good. It's a great performance, but man, did they auto-tune the life out of Maui's songs. It's pretty wild. So anything could happen.
I will give you the rock. I think it's funny.
Let's dive into it, man. Like, Dwayne Johnson as essentially, a demigod superhero is supposedly going to be playing Maui in a live action version of Moana at some point. Like, perfect casting, in my opinion. Perfect casting.
We'll definitely see how that goes. Was this his first singing role?
I would imagine. I mean, I am sure that he has done some level of singing on film, of like being in a scene and doing something. He's probably sang a song, doing a in WWE, but like, I don't think he has ever actually legitimately recorded anything like this before. This was the first one.
I don't think so. I mean,
yeah,
I think this was I can't remember if when this came out, people were like surprised, being like, "Is this really The Rock is going to be playing this role and singing?"
A little bit. That is
wild.
I remember that.
That is wild. I mean, this kind of legitimized him as a
talent.
Yeah, I mean,
a bigger talent than what he is. He pulled out another trick out of his bag of tricks. Like,
that's kind of
really
thing.
Cool.
He's showing more of what he can do there. You know, you do got The Rock. We have
The Rock. We have the most electrifying man in all of entertainment. Like, it's, 100%. I think the genius of having The Rock in the film, obviously it's a character that fits really, really well for him. But it was also, the music was written really specifically, I feel like, for The Rock, something that can like help him shine a little bit. We'll talk more about the actual music of both of these films in a bit, but like, having it be a more rap style thing that could fit to sort of the personality of the way that Dwayne Johnson talks, I think was really, really smart, really helps out.
Yeah.
The auto-tune though, man, is atrocious. And I as a musician myself, I gotta say, it can get really, really bad. Is it as bad as some other things that we've heard and seen in some other movies? No. But it's not great. Where I think, at least if we're talking about that one for one, I can't argue with it from the vocal performances in Frozen. I know that there's a bit of auto-tune going on here or there, but like, I have heard almost every single one of them sing live, and most of them are Broadway performers. And
that's what I was going to say. I mean, it is interesting for a musical that, Moana being a musical, like Frozen being a musical, Frozen really emphasized on Broadway talent for their stars. Pretty much all of the cast, or majority of the cast, especially the ones that have singing parts, are Broadway actors.
Yes.
So it's, I mean, even from Idina Menzel, which, I mean, like you were saying with The Rock, that role was kind of made for him in a way.
Yeah.
This role was, I mean, the song "Let It Go" was written with Idina Menzel
for her
in mind, which is crazy. I mean, and to think that like this is now her biggest song.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Isn't that wild?
It's not Defying Gravity anymore.
No,
we're gone to the days of Defying Gravity. Now it's "Let It Go" is what she will be always remembered for, as far as
that's a signature
her biggest song. Not that she's gonna be remembered for Frozen only, obviously, but
no,
this is her song. I mean, talking about the song, I mean, we won't talk about the music yet. We could talk about the music.
I mean,
you want to get into the music a little bit?
I think we're gonna get into that in just a second, but like, I like that is 100%. The cast, I think, is really actor strong in my film, in Moana, and it's very like, not that they're not strong actors, and not that the people in Moana are bad singers by any stretch of the imagination, but it really is like they went with Broadway talent in Frozen, from Josh Gad, who is huge on Broadway, is currently on Broadway. The King from Hamilton, Kristoff, right? He is a major Broadway talent as well.
Kristoff,
I'm not sure.
Is.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Kristen Bell has any.
Kristen Bell has a lot of Broadway experience.
Okay, because my God, I did not realize how good she sang until seeing this movie and then watching live performances of her.
She can sing.
Oh man, that's nuts.
And that's I mean, they picked people that have such a knack for this type of performance.
Yeah, it very much makes sense why there is a Broadway version of Frozen. It just seems like it is picture perfect, built for that style. Where Moana, not necessarily, a little more about the film, about the journey, about the even sort of like the not calling it CGI, but like the animation, the visual experience of Moana, I think is a little more emphasized there. But yeah, I think now is probably a good point to shift into music. But before we do that, I do want to make sure that we acknowledge our sponsor for this episode, in the past handful of episodes, the Magic Candle Company. I am currently using a little bit of themed Magic Candle Company scent right here. A little bit of the Polynesian scent. So it's the Polynesian Hotel. Thought this fits really well. A lot of Moana references over there at the Polynesian. Thought this was a great way to just kind of get into it. And why don't we hear a little bit more about the Magic Candle Company?
Magic Candle Company themed fragrances allow you to capture the smell of your most cherished vacation memories. Set sail on a swashbuckling pirate adventure. Transport back to the tropical atmosphere of a beautiful South Pacific themed resort. Relive the excitement of a fun-filled day spent on your favorite dark water rides. Soar above a California orange grove. Embark on an exotic river cruise adventure. Recall that first bite of your favorite frozen pineapple treat. Escape to your favorite rocking chair overlooking a murmuring creek as you soak in the splendor of the great outdoors. Enjoy the scent that's beloved by foolish mortals and happy haunts alike. Or even recapture the nostalgic aroma of being a kid again, watching your favorite Saturday morning cartoons. All of this and more is just a click away. Visit MagicCandleCompany.com and escape to your happy place today.
Receive 15% off. Discount code DEBATE.
Hopefully you guys went out and got some fun magic candle scents for the rest of our podcast here. Make sure to use the discount code DEBATE for 15% off. And it helps us out too, keeps us running, keeps making sure that we're able to subscribe to Disney Plus, right?
I like them. I am a buyer of these, and they have been in my house long before
quite a while.
This, so
yeah, and you know who else is a big fan of the Magic Candle Company? My ringer, my dead ringer. I don't actually know if he likes the Magic Candle Company, but I would imagine my
Mr.
dead
Morrow?
ringer. Yeah, Mr. Morrow. No, I'm talking about the man who was so heavily advertised, attached to the film Moana, really brings out the extra depth. We're talking about music. We're talking about Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Oh, he's a Magic Candle Company guy?
I don't know. Probably. I hope he is.
You're building it up. I was like, yes.
No, I threw it in there that he wasn't. I don't think he actually is. I mean, maybe. Everybody is. Everybody should be.
Doppelganger?
No.
What'd you call him?
No, I didn't say any of that. I said he was my trump card.
Oh, I thought you said...
He's like my trump card for this whole thing. Should we start over?
I heard doppelganger. That's why I said Mr. Morrow. I was like...
No. I'm talking about my trump card. I wanted to find it was a bad segue to intro into our music section of this debate right here.
That's a good segue now that I'm looking back on it.
Thanks, man. Let's talk about my boy, Lin-Manuel Miranda. That's my trump card, I feel like, this episode, dude. There's a lot of good stuff in here. You know, I can talk about the People's Champ The Rock as he's a fairly big trump card here. But, dude, Lin-Manuel, I think this is his first venture into the Disney family doing, you know, he might have done something else a little bit, but this was this is post-Hamilton. This is major, massive stuff. This is before Encanto, before anything else. Like, oh man, he is riding very high, rolling into this film, and you know what? Does not disappoint. I think that if there is almost any movie that's going to have even a leg to stand on when it comes to the massive monster hit of Let It Go, it's this movie. And like, I think that's a big reason of why we kind of paired these up a little bit. Like, the music in this film is amazing.
For sure.
It's amazing.
Music wise, I mean, I can't argue against the songs. They are super catchy.
Yeah.
They're good. But that's kind of, so this was before, I think, some of that. And, you know, I'm not going to say that I've experienced this, but there's a lot of Lin-Manuel Miranda fatigue that I think people experience.
I disagree so heavily.
I'm not saying that this is my feelings.
How dare you?
But this is something that people say a lot. And when Encanto came out, people were saying that.
Is there Mozart fatigue? Do people get offended by Beethoven now? This man is like up there in that range.
I believe it. You're a music guy. I get it. But people say that. They're like, oh, this sounds too much like Moana.
I mean,
when Encanto came out. So...
But it's such a good, and I mean...
You can tell it's him. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's got a signature.
And that is what I think is great about this. I think, in as much as I love, and I think the soundtrack for Frozen is great, I think it is a little similar to Disney stuff. And I think that Disney really, amongst creating new fun, like fairy tale style movies, I think that they also need to broaden their spectrum of like what the music in a Disney film can be. And like, you don't want it to be too big of a departure, right? It kind of has to fit into that family. Lin-Manuel is the perfect person to work with on that. He brought that Hamilton style to this, that like slight rap, singing Broadway style to this film. It played so much into the Disney tropes of music, but it also brought all of his personality with it. And I mean, again, this goes back to the discussion of The Rock. There is nobody else who can create a song better for Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, than Lin-Manuel. Spot on. That song is perfect. That Maui tune is absolutely great. You're welcome. Phenomenal tune. It is a new Disney classic.
Did he do Wish?
I don't actually know that. I know that he did Encanto, and I am not too hip on what's going on with Wish, to be honest. Maybe. I'm sure he's going to be doing a lot of Disney projects because it makes a lot of sense.
I don't know. I think this was the first one that he did, and
you think it's lackluster?
He nailed it. No, I think this is the best.
I thought we were going into it.
This is at his best.
He's
with this movie.
I mean, maybe plateau can be argued. This is another debate for another time, but like, we don't talk about Bruno. Very high up there, man. That whole soundtrack of Encanto, very, very good. So like the Lin-Manuel powers are not depleted yet.
Some of those songs, we don't talk about Bruno, got up there. Nothing got to where Let It Go did.
In a way, but like Let It Go kind of has the like
this was the
Gangnam style thing to it, right? Where it was a little overplayed, it was a little overblown.
Well, that's like saying Lin-Manuel Miranda is overplayed.
I don't think so. I mean, how many times do you hear Lin-Manuel music on the radio? How much do you hear it out in public? Do you hear Alexander Hamilton
my point.
anywhere in the world?
How many times do you hear Let It Go on the radio all the time?
You hear it often, dude. It's on TV nonstop.
The time. It was the first Disney animated song to chart on the billboards since
there you go.
Since 95. This was big news when this came out.
100%. And there's no taking it away from it.
It was the song.
Absolutely.
Won the Academy Award, won a Grammy.
100%. No taking away those accolades from Let It Go. It's a monster tune. It's huge, but it's everywhere. And if we're talking about fatigue, I think Let It Go fatigue is probably the biggest, like Frozen fatigue is probably the biggest fatigue that has ever fatigued the
Just
world.
Because it's so big. You can do that with anything that gets super big and super popular.
I honestly think the only thing that's ever close to been touching how big of like the world was fatigued with Frozen was Marvel. Like, and that's maybe recently. That even isn't as much, I think, as Frozen.
My example, U2, Beautiful Day. I cannot stand that song. I've heard that way too much.
That's fair.
I don't hear it as much, but I can't even listen to the song because I heard it so much.
That or Vertigo, just like U2 in general.
Don't Stop Believing. I cannot listen to Don't Stop Believing.
I mean, that still hits, man. That song still hits.
I can't do it
still
anymore.
Has power.
You get the fatigue. So you're not wrong, but that's going to happen with things that get more popular than the world can handle.
Yeah.
It was too big. But that's not the only song that not only charted. Do You Want to Build a Snowman charted on Billboard Top 100, and it also but it peaked at number one Christmas song.
Sure. And you know what else it peaked at? Number one? I think even higher than Let It Go in the fatigue charts. My God.
Possibly.
Do babysitters around the U.S. want to crawl into a hole when they hear that song?
All-time best-selling Christmas song of all time.
Yeah, I mean, and that's cool that it's applicable for like
next to
a
Mariah
month
Carey.
out of the year. That's very neat, you know?
It is, but it's not. It is not. And then you're not even touching the other Love Is an Open Door. Another great
I think that's
song.
a little it's almost like I don't want to say that it's like underrated, but I think like general population it's not as big. I mean, obviously nothing is touching Let It Go and Want to Build a Snowman.
Those are the two top.
But if you're walking around a Disney park, Disney related things, you're going to hear Love Is an Open Door often in a good way, not saying a fatigue way. I think that is a very I don't say
that's a good one.
That's a bad word, but not as fatigued. I definitely will give you that. But I mean,
Olaf's song, you have third party character out of nowhere here singing this. You the sidekick singing a song. Come on,
sidekicks sing songs fairly often.
Not in Moana, they don't.
That's fair because it's a chicken and a pig that aren't really featured. But exactly. I mean, there is an argument to be made that Maui is the sidekick. He's not going to like it if we call him a sidekick, but he kind of is a sidekick and he plays that role within the movie. So like, that's one of the biggest tunes, man, in the movie. Like, you're welcome. So you kind of got to like give that to that, you know?
It's a big one. I don't think it's by any means the best song.
I don't think it's the biggest song, and I would say the best. I would say it's probably number 2, next to How Far I'll Go
is probably one of Disney's best.
A perfect tune for so many reasons, for the like lyrical content of it, for what it means for the movie, and then just musically, like it is that perfect mix, I think, of Lin-Manuel with the Disney style. I don't think it can be done better than that song.
Hercules, I Can Go the Distance.
It has the same spirit of that for a modern generation, but I don't think it's the same thing. I think it's a little different.
Little Mermaid.
I don't think that it is. I don't think it's what we were arguing in the Toy Story thing, where we're arguing Monsters Inc. soundtrack versus Toy Story soundtrack. That I get a little bit more. I'm still going to fight hard when we eventually do that, but like not as much. I don't think so. Other things musically that I think were perfect in Moana, Lin-Manuel makes an appearance, and I think it would be really remiss if you didn't have Lin-Manuel sing a song in the movie, and man, it just fits perfect. They used it in a great way where they didn't really force him to be a character. It's over kind of a montage scene, and you have him come in there.
The Voyagers scene.
Yes, he's in the Voyagers scene, and I think that it's a very, very good use of him and having that in there. It sort of reminds me, and I think it's a little more understated because, like, you know, Elton John and Phil Collins were Elton John and Phil Collins when they were making those movies, Tarzan and Lion King. And like, I think that Lin-Manuel is at very similar heights-ish, but like those guys are just next level. But it has that same kind of vibe where you can like throw in this big artist without sort of it feeling uncomfortable, without it feeling weird. I think that they did a really good job sneaking Lin-Manuel in there.
They needed him. I don't know if Moana would have been the same if they had some other guy. They needed that Broadway touch that he brought to the characters.
In general, I would agree with you. I think that the movie is made a little step up by having Lin-Manuel. I think that the concrete
music,
backbone,
I think, makes that movie.
I think it's tough. I don't know if it's exactly a 50-50 split, but I feel like the story, the visuals, and the music are all three playing together super, super nicely. And I don't think you can really remove one of those pieces and have it still be like a good, like that level of a film. I'm trying to think in terms of Frozen, if we can sort of like pull one of those things out or change one of those things. The only thing that I might argue in that realm is maybe changing like the animation style, because I don't think it's like too great, but I'm not trying to knock it, because like Moana is years after Frozen. I think that it fits a very cartoony Disney style really well, but there isn't just that extra level of pop like I think Moana has.
I think the pop just comes naturally from the environment too that they're in Moana.
I would agree.
They're in a white place.
But they have ice, man. They have a lot of ability to make a lot of beautiful crystal-like things, and they do in the movie. Like I'm not knocking that.
It's incredibly visually complex with what they had to do.
I think there's a next level,
with the snow and the ice and the northern lights they got going on. I would say that, you know, again, going back to our Pixar debate, I think Finding Nemo is a better looking movie from a visual standpoint like that than Frozen is. I think it's more impressive what they did in Finding Nemo than Frozen. I think Moana definitely looks better. I think that is probably due more so to the environment.
I mean, there's bright colors, there's water, but I think that there's equal amounts of stuff in Frozen with ice. I mean, dude, ice is a big thing. There's a lot you can do visually appealing with that.
To an extent, but it's still going to be ice.
Sure. I mean, water is water. What else? You know what I mean?
I'm talking about the water. I mean, the island,
I know, but like, sure, but most of the film is contrast, them in the water. Like, it's very similar, I feel like. They have the ability.
Yeah.
And they could have done a lot more, I think, in Frozen, showing you different environments that wasn't just, them trekking through the snow. They could have found a lot of other things along the way. They could have encountered different characters. Sure. There's a lot of things that they could have sort of spiced it up with. I don't want to harp on that too much because, again, like the two movies are fairly spread apart in technological advancements, and I do think that helps because like the technological advancements that happen to be able to make water look so appealing in Moana only had come in the last few years that movie was sort of made. So and water and ice are sort of similar in technology, not how they flow, but like the reflectiveness. So I don't want to get too lost in the weeds on that stuff, but I do think that from an artistic standpoint, artistic style, Frozen could have been maybe dialed up a little bit to where, like, I don't think you can change or touch the story or the musical aspect of it and have that be the same movie. Those, like, have to be locked into place. Where Moana, I think all three work very hand in hand together, and you need to have all three components.
I think they do. I think it also could have been ruined very easily without the music. I do.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, that is the like taking one away. So I guess, is it a point for or is it a point against? Because you can't take one of the elements away and have it work.
No, it is like what it is. And it works because it is. You know, but
it's a perfect stew. They made a soup that was just perfectly seasoned, right?
They did something good.
Nothing else they could do.
I will say only one of them surpassed $1 billion.
Hey, you know what? I tried to make that argument. I was going to go on Wikipedia and see if I could even compete. And it's like, it literally, I think Frozen made twice as much money in the box office that Moana made.
It made twice as much and I think that's because of all the reasons I listed. I think Disney, this was their comeback to princess movies almost. And it was what there hadn't been, a big musical in a while. I think there were a lot of factors that contributed. I don't know exactly what one did, but it hit. It hit right.
It hit hard.
And I honestly do feel like a lot of people would pick Moana over Frozen for the reasons that you said. But again, one of them doubled the other at the box office.
Absolutely.
And what is that reason?
I think one of the reasons too, and this isn't like, it's not totally that. I am sure, and I know that it killed at the box office when it came out, but like one of the big reasons that movies can sometimes skew box office numbers is by re-releases. And I do know that Frozen had a number of like sing-along-esque re-releases. That movie was just so in demand, and it doesn't take anything away from the movies. Like, the movie was in demand and people wanted to go to a theater to experience it. You have to give it to them 100%.
I still think that itself, I mean, it was a powerhouse.
It absolutely.
It really was. And I think everything about, kind of going back to what you said, everything kind of goes together to make it what it is.
Yeah,
and you can't remove any of those elements.
No.
And that's what brings the charm.
It was huge at the box office. It had staying power. I think that is one of the big things that Frozen had that almost no other movie has had. Like, not a lot of other movies have had in general, but like especially
so much else. If you search up Frozen on Disney Plus, you have unlimited Frozen things to watch.
It's actually kind of annoying when you're going to try to watch Frozen 1 and you go to the Frozen collection. It took me forever to find what the original OG movie is. You can even at Christmas you can do the Arendelle fireplace if you want on your TV.
It's so much. It's crazy.
And we're just getting more because Frozen 3 has been announced. It's going to come out. It's on its way.
Gonna be coming soon. So yeah, I mean, this is they. Not that Moana didn't spawn, a sequel, but Frozen is making a franchise right now. And I mean, Moana will be too. I think Moana, to be fair, is going to have that same. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's got, we have the sequel coming up for Moana, and we have the little experience, I think is what we're kind of referring to it in the Disney parks. So the Journey of Water, there's some stuff there. Like it's an IP that they're going to keep rolling with, and I think rightfully so. I think it's a good one. It's a great addition. There's no knocking either of these films. I think these films are like perfect additions into the sort of princess Disney animated world. It's these feel like instant classics. I think both of them did. I don't know. It's almost like, and compared to the Rotten Tomato scores and things like that, Moana scores a little higher, but there's no denying that Frozen was a cultural moment. So it's
it for sure was. I think Moana might have filled some of those, people's fancy by fitting that formula, just making a good solid movie where Frozen may have taken some risks.
You're coming with some really like underhanded compliments right now. I don't
know, but
I think it's got the Rotten Tomato scores that are a little higher. So clearly it's a better film in general. They were just able to capture the world in just a way, hitting just the right moment, right? So technically Frozen's the inferior film. So I think I win in this one. I think that's it. I don't think we need to go any further, right? Done? Wrap it up?
You know agree? What? I actually think, based on my arguments, which I have not felt that I've won yet.
Do you have a trump card that you're holding on to
I don't
right now?
I don't have a trump card.
I got a couple things left, but I think I've used some of my big boys.
Keep in your pocket. I don't have a trump card, but I just think I think I sold myself on Frozen today.
You were not feeling it necessarily. I know that there was a little bit of squiggliness. It's not your favorite film. You weren't loving the coin flip.
I also didn't hate it. I didn't hate it, but I am not mad.
I think it probably, once I watched Moana again, it really kind of dawned on me. I was just like, oh, this is the biology guy. He's the fish guy. He's the pirate guy. Of course he wants the water movie.
Yeah, I didn't want to take that again, actually.
I offered it to you, and you could have had it. You could have taken it.
I could have.
I was surprised.
I could have, and I'm once again, I think going for, I don't even know if this is an underdog. I can't even call it an underdog.
No,
I mean, this is the biggest thing Disney's done in how long now?
Yeah, it's huge.
I'm not even
massive.
Gonna call it an underdog. I
Probably
think
one of the biggest IPs Disney Animated Studios has had for forever.
A solid movie. But I do think that at a poll, I think most people are still going to say Moana.
I don't know. I think. Oh, yeah, okay. I thought you were going to say Frozen. Yeah, the fatigue thing I think is the only thing that might come into play, where just like that sort of strong, solid film, slightly understated, has really good music still, but it's not so in your face. I think that's going to play in its favor into these polls. But I don't know, man. Like Frozen has just hit a place in the world's heart that like you can't take away. And like honestly, after watching the full movie for the first time, I understand it and I don't hate that film. And not that I was ever like a hater of that film, but I'm kind of mad at it's taken me this long to actually experience that film as a whole.
Well, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did.
Part of why we're doing this podcast.
You got to watch it Disney on Ice, and you got to watch it.
I did. That's where I learned the whole story.
You pretty much got it all down.
Disney on Ice, and then I got kind of like the in between sequel at the Epcot ride. So like very interesting. I saw a lot of things before I saw the actual movie, so I was prepped and ready to go for this. But great. I think it's a phenomenal experience. I think both of these are, and that's what's honestly really fun about doing this whole show is sort of being able to like dive into these things, into the stuff that maybe we wouldn't normally watch all the time.
We would, yeah. I mean, we wouldn't normally watch it. I mean, in general, and we also probably wouldn't normally talk about it. So it's fun.
Not like this. I mean, maybe a little bit. I love talking about Lin-Manuel. I love talking about music
I know you
stuff.
Do. We've talked. I mean, yeah. I mean, we definitely tend to talk about it for sure.
Yeah, I'm a big Hamilton guy, so I can talk about Lin-Manuel for a while. I don't think this will be our last. I mean, it's definitely not Lin-Manuel's last project. He's got Encanto. He's going to be doing a lot of other stuff, I will bet. So I think we're going back to this well a little bit. But I could definitely see Frozen being thrown out again in another argument, even maybe a more music-specific argument, because
definitely might.
there's some great music stuff, man. And like, you can put this up against some of Disney's best. Like, you can absolutely put it up against Lion King, Tarzan, any of the other, Little Mermaid, any of these other big musical films. So we could be seeing it again. So keep it sharp, man. You might have to be pulling this out for another debate.
No, I will any day of the week. Any day of the week.
Any final points, any last points you want to get out? Any last things that you just want to talk about before we wrap up today's episode?
Not really. It was fun watching Frozen again. I haven't done that in a while. So that was good. That was good.
I think we covered most things that I wanted to talk about with these two films. I think it
is funny you said Tarzan as the director of Frozen did actually direct Tarzan.
I did hear that. In my research, I did come across that. Great films, classic films. I mean, it makes sense. I think a lot of these had a lot of classic influences in the both of them from sort of the people working on them.
Oh, sure. I think, if I'm not, there's something about, I knew this before, but something about Frozen in general being an idea going back to like early Pixar days. Like it was a thought for a while. They just, I don't think knew how to go about it. So
sure. No, I mean, a lot of these movies go through a lot of processes and changes, before they get refined to what they are. I'm pretty sure Taika Waititi did a pass on Moana before they got to where they got, and like they kept nothing from his first draft. But like big names work on this, like very talented people. It gets passed around from studio to studio sometimes, and like it
is funny. And then his buddy ends up in the movie.
Which one? Because there's actually multiple, I believe. Because you have the big crab man from Flight of the Conchords, but then you also have Rachel House. If you know who Rachel House is, she was in Hunt for the Wilder People. She was in Taika Waititi's Thor movies. She is like Taika Waititi's like good luck charm, and she is in everything. She was the grandmother in Moana. So a lot of like weird Taika Waititi sort of influence sort of still making its way through there, even though they didn't pick up much stuff. Speaking of the grandma, and I think this is my final thing, and I did spend a lot of time talking about Star Wars as I always do, but one of the things I love is like they
Darth
did it
Vader.
Very subtly. It wasn't very there, but like as a Star Wars nerd, I'm sure there was like one animator that was like, yo, when the grandma shows up again, we're going to make her look just like a Force ghost. And they absolutely made grandma a Force ghost in this movie.
She kind of is.
I appreciated it. But I really loved a lot of the grandma Moana stuff in the film, and just sort of how they like had the spirituality of her being reborn again. I just thought it was such a cool little touch into that.
It's like a Johnny Tsunami grandpa relationship.
A little bit, right? A little Johnny Tsunami in this.
Johnny Tsunami.
That Polynesian flair, man, we love it. Such good couple of movies today. Very, very happy with it. Just wanted to make sure I threw out my one little Star Wars nod, as I'll probably do anytime I pick up on
this.
You
have to. I got it.
All right. I think that's it. I think we beat these horses fairly extensively. Reindeers. We beat the reindeers fairly extensively.
The reindeers today.
Not a good. I don't want to be talking about beating animals in a Disney related thing. That's a little much. Let's stay away from that. Although was surprised with the amount of like not that it's a thing, but you think about it in older Disney movies, but like in this, like a lot of death gets thrown around in all these movies, and like they're very comfortable about talking about killing people. I just thought it was very cool. Like I never really thought about that in like Disney princess movies, that we're just gonna like say that we are sending Elsa to death. They literally say that. They literally try to do that in Frozen. So,
yeah,
wild stuff.
It is crazy.
Disney's complex. It's great. It's not just for the kids. There's a wide range of stuff going on there. Thank you all for joining us on this episode of Diz or That. Make sure to follow us at all of our social medias. We are on Instagram. We are on TikTok. Diz, D-I-S as in Disney, D-I-S or That Pod. At Instagram, at TikTok. Make sure to go check us out on YouTube, where you can watch video versions of this podcast, or you can listen to the audio only versions pretty much wherever you enjoy all of your podcasts. We hope to see you guys in the polls that we'll be putting up. Vote either for Moana, or you can vote, I guess, if you want to, for Frozen. Thank you guys again for joining us on the happiest debate on earth. We will see you guys next week.
This podcast was brought to you by the Magic Candle Company. Relive your favorite theme park memories through the magical sense of smell. Receive 15% off at checkout by using discount code DEBATE and help our channel in the process.